Chapter 933 Might of a Blow. Chapter 933 Might of a Blow. Heavenly body tier elites would naturally not take shattering void tier cultivators seriously, but the energy condensed in this palm of Ling Han's had far surpassed 20 stars of shattering void tier, which moved even these important people. To be able to surpass the maximum limit on any cultivation level was absolutely and definitely not an easy feat, which implied that he could possibly reach an astonishing height in cultivation in the future. Yi Chengyun was present as well. His battle prowess was 21 stars of shattering void tier, so he naturally had to participate on behalf of the Empire as well. Moreover, breaking through to Mountain River tier was definitely not something that could be accomplished in a short while. How could it be something that he could do easily just because he wanted to? He had witnessed Ling Han's battle prowess before, and when he realized that Ling Han was about to make a move, he was instantly scared so much that his hair was on ends. Immediately, he leaped out of his chair as if a fire had been lit under him. He ran for his life. As the greatest elite in the shattering void tier division of the Eastern Institution, his abilities were known to all. Hence, it was natural that no one would challenge him once he sat there. To pull a person with battle prowess of 21 stars of shattering void tier off his pedestal, one would at least need 10 people with battle prowess of 20 stars of shattering void tier to join forces to succeed. There might not even be 5 people with battle prowess of 20 stars of shattering void tier here, so who would be foolish enough to challenge him? But with this escape of Yi Chengyun, a great many were confused. Had he been possessed? It was at this moment that Ling Han delivered his palm strike. Hong! A flash of golden light swept over. Peng, peng, peng. Everyone was sent flying as if they were flowers scattered by a divine fairy, flying to all corners. Some collapsed onto the ground, some were crushed down by their chairs, and some fell into the bushes. All in all, aside from Yi Chengyun, who'd had enough foresight and managed to flee in time, the others were all tossed over. The majority directly passed out, a rare few were still conscious, though their faces were filled with shock. This was a little too strong, wasn't it? A muscle in Yi Chengyun's cheek twitched. He'd known that this blow from Ling Han would definitely be very powerful, but he still could not help but feel a shudder in his heart once he had witnessed it with his own eyes. Was this really something a shattering void tier cultivator could accomplish? Monster, this was too monstrous. The left minister was also slightly shocked. He only knew that Ling Han had come through opening the sky, so his abilities had to have reached 20 stars, which was enough to win honor for him. But, how could he have imagined that Ling Han would actually be as fearsome as this? When he was young, did he have that kind of ability? The left minister could not help but shake his head. This was the first time that he really looked at this young man. He had really underestimated this emperor that came from a small world. Perhaps, in future, he might be able to become a supreme elite. This thought merely streaked past in the left minister's mind, but he immediately broke into a short laugh. Being strong presently did not mean that one would definitely be strong in future. There were a great many fallen geniuses in this world. It could even be claimed that the world lacked geniuses the least. Yet, there were pitifully few geniuses that could attain the pinnacle. There were even a great many that many did not have an optimistic opinion about, and were not categorized amongst the top-grade elites. On the path of martial arts, there were too many accidents. He had really thought too much. At least 1,000,000 years had to pass before a heavenly body tier elite could appear, and there were pitifully few of them. However, it had to be admitted that the present Ling Han was definitely forceful, showing an invincible, elegant bearing. He lifted up a chair, and sat down alone just like that. There was absolutely no one that could equal him. The ninth king's small mouth assumed an O shape, while her eyes widened. She was still young, and did not think so far ahead. She had merely been stunned by this strike from Ling Han. Great! Awesome! She clapped her hands and kicked her legs, like a naive, pampered little girl. This attracted the attention of everyone. She quickly stuck out her small tongue, and appeared to be even more childish. Only now did Yi Chengyun return, hissing through his teeth. He also pulled up a chair, but did not dare to sit right next to Ling Han. Instead, he placed the chair a bit behind of Ling Han's seat. Those that were still conscious on the ground slowly got back to their feet, and each lifted up a chair to sit down on. Like Yi Chengyun, None of them dared to sit lined up with Ling Han. This was the respect that they should accord a man stronger than them. Ling Han's strength had already far surpassed the level they were on. Upon counting, there just happened to be 10 of them, so there was no need for further battles. This caused the left minister and the other higher-ups to be slightly stunned. Could it be that when Ling Han delivered his blow, he had already planned this out? If that was the case, the ability of this young man had to be given a slightly higher estimate. However, Ling Han had not deliberately done so. He had merely controlled the power behind this palm strike so the people who were the strongest would not pass out. He had not foreseen that there just happened to be 10 of them altogether. Thus, Ma Xing, Yang Ci, and the others were all seated. The right minister and the 7 great generals all cast a few more looks at Ling Han. Such a monstrous shattering void tear cultivator moved even them slightly, and they remembered his name. But that was the only thing they did. Meanwhile, the 9th king appeared very excited, and asked Ling Han, "What is your name?" Ling Han stood up, being neither servile nor overbearing, and replied evenly, "I am Ling Han." The 9th king could not help but begin clapping her hands again. "This time, we will definitely be in first place. Hehe, this is the first time I have done something so well for Big Sister. In future, no one would be allowed to call me little idiot." Once she had said so, she immediately stuck out her tongue. She had once again embarrassed herself. All right. You can all go back." She quickly began chasing them out, naturally not hoping for others to laugh at her. None of them dared to disobey, so everyone swiftly departed. The command of the 9th king was equivalent to the command of the empress, and no one could disobey. In the top 10, there was a total of 7 that came from the Scarlet Heaven Academy. The other 6 all followed behind Ling Han respectfully. Their eyes were even filled with fanaticism. They had reached the height of battle prowess of 19 stars or even 20 stars, and were thus deeply aware how difficult it was to reach or surpass this limit. Naturally, they were filled with admiration and respect for Ling Han. The might of that palm strike previously was practically something to marvel at, like it was a divine feat. As they passed, they, like subordinates, flanked Ling Han as he entered into the academy. This scene caused those who witnessed it to click their tongues in amazement. "Oh!" Zhao Lun revealed a smile. Like before, he was standing at the bottom of the waterfall. This was because he was cultivating a secret technique. He could not move his body, as he had observed this waterfall and understand a certain rhythm of its movement. This person from a small world, his battle prowess has actually exceeded 20 stars. He appeared slightly surprised. Zhuo Xiao was presently relating the event that had happened just a few days ago. "Yes, young master," Zhuo Xiao said respectfully, a sliver of admiration in his eyes. The ability of this ant from a small world had slightly exceeded his expectations. Luo Ba was eliminated in a single strike, and he had become a competition representative for the Chaotic Star's majestic empire. Since he has gained the right to participate, it would not be so easy to kill him. Otherwise, if the Empress lays the blame, when Zhao Lun spoke about this, he could not help but feel a shudder. Even for a genius like him, his heart would shudder at the mere mention of the Empress of the Chaotic Star's majestic empire. In the hearts of all the citizens of the Chaotic Star's majestic empire, the Empress of the Chaotic Star's majestic empire was a being that was eternally invincible, and could never be surpassed. "Young master, what do you plan to do?" Zhuo Xiao asked. He understood this young master of his. He would definitely not spare Ling Han just like this. Zhao Lun laughed loudly, and said, "We shall temporarily spare his life, and kill him once the competition between the 3 empires is over. However, we cannot let him off so easily. You go and make some arrangements." He began to issue his orders. Zhuo Xiao's lips curled up in an uncontrollable smile as he said, "Haha, even if that brat manages to safely pass this night, he would garner the hatred of the Western institution." Chapter 934, Battling the Western Institution. Chapter 934, Battling the Western Institution. Ling Han was cultivating in his rooms, his heart calm. He was progressing further and further on his 6 techniques return to 1, and added with the fact that he had money, allowing him to purchase enough alchemical pills, his strength was improving at an astonishing rate. At most in half a year's time, or even in a shorter period, he would be able to reach the maximum limit of strength of 20 stars of shattering void tear. Chem. An attentive expression appeared on his face, but his hair immediately stood on ends. Another person had actually appeared in his courtyard without any warning. This person was clothed completely in black, and a veil concealed his face. He was even wearing a cloak, and not even his figure could be distinguished. Was this another assassin from the Dark Knight Hall? However, would the Dark Knight Hall actually dare be so bold, actually making their move even within the bounds of the Scarlet Heaven Academy? Die. The black-robed person humphed coldly, and suddenly moved, sending out a palm strike in Ling Han's direction. The speed, why was it so slow? Ling Han could clearly see that there were even 3 mountains and rivers flickering behind this person, yet the might of this blow was only 22 to 23 stars of shattering void tier, and completely did not match the cultivation level of 1 in the higher levels of the mountain river tier. With a leap, he dodged this blow. Xiao, the black-robed person pursued, and once again delivered a palm strike toward Ling Han. The might behind this strike was much greater, and had reached the level of 25 stars of shattering void tier. Only limited to the mountain river tier cultivators, it would be much too easy for them to increase their battle prowess by another 2 stars of shattering void tier. It would only be a matter of thought. Ling Han's brow wrinkled into a frown. He hurriedly dodged, and fled out of his courtyard. The black-robed man pursued quickly, and attacked endlessly. However, he did not deliver an attack on the level of mountain river tier, and was merely herding Ling Han into a specific place. One chased, while the other fled. They were moving very quickly, and in the blink of an eye, they had left the northern institution and were heading towards the west. Ling Han immediately understood. The man wanted to chase him into the western institution. In the Scarlet Heaven Academy, the 4 great institutions were as incompatible as fire and water, and their relations were filled with fierce competition. If a student of the northern institution appeared in the western institution, what consequences would await him? He would be thrashed hideously. The man wanted to use the western institution and teach him a lesson. This man was definitely not a member of the Dark Knight Hall. If he was, why would he do something so unnecessary? Moreover, if he really was a man of the Dark Knight Hall, how could he possibly enter into the Scarlet Heaven Academy? He would have been killed long ago. But a black-robed man, with unidentifiable origins, was practically committing crime in public. What did this mean? The higher-ups of the academy definitely knew the identity of this person, yet did not make any move to stop him, which meant that they were wary of the backer behind him. Then there was only one person left. Zhao Lun. This person had to be Zhao Lun's subordinate, and the higher-ups of the academy also knew that he would not act recklessly. Thus, they decided to turn a blind eye to the matter. After all, Zhao Lun was the only son of the great General Zhao, who would dare not give him some face? Peng. The black-robed man suddenly delivered a heavy blow. With this blow, Ling Han was instantly sent flying, and crashed heavily into the wall of a courtyard. Who is it? This was the dorm area for the shattering void tier cultivators of the Western Institution. Immediately, a great many people raced over, and discovered Ling Han among the ruins. The black-robed man had long since flashed away, vanishing completely from sight. Ling Han stood up. The black-robed man had not used full power in his last blow. However, the strike was too fast, so he could not dodge in time. Naturally, it could not possibly have injured him. Someone from the Northern Institution. It's Ling Han, the number 1 student of this batch of new students. Fuck, does he think that he can come and mess around in our Western Institution just because his battle prowess has surpassed 20 stars? Thrash him. There were as many as 2,000 people in the whole shattering void tier division of the Western Institution. Moreover, all of them had been in the academy for more than 5 years, so no matter what, their battle prowess had reached 15 stars at least. With so many of them added together, what shattering void tier cultivator would have any choice but to retreat? Furthermore, it was Ling Han who had barged into the Western Institution, and if he got thrashed, he would deserve it. So, whom could he ask for justice? He was compelled. Who compelled you? The black-robed man? Were you joking? Anyone could throw on a suit of black robes and he would become a black-robed man. Ling Han smirked coldly inside. He knew that Zhao Lun was trying to make trouble for him. He did not dare to kill him in the academy, but the son of the great General Zhao could mess around and give you a hard time. What could you do about it? If he was not a match for them, he would definitely be thrashed severely, and in the case he won, he would similarly garner the rage of the Western institution students in the Mountain River tier. Weren't you acting a little too arrogant, coming all alone to the Western institution to strut around? Ling Han recalled how Shui Yenyu described him. Zhao Lun was a poisonous snake. This really was a very fitting description. Hong, immediately, a few dozen people rushed over. Now, they had the advantage in numbers, so they were naturally not the slightest bit afraid of Ling Han. Ling Han stretched out a hand, and immediately grabbed one of them. Placing the person in front of him as a meat shield with a smile, he said, "Everyone, I have accidentally lost my way, apologies. I will be leaving now, and we will part with no hard feelings, all right? Humph, you dare barge into our Western institution, and still plan on strutting nonchalantly out of our territory? Ling Han, aren't you being a little too arrogant here? Would you be able to boast later that you managed to barge all alone into our Western institution and leave completely unscathed? In your dreams." They all made their moves, but because there was a human shield, they naturally had misgivings. "If you're capable, don't take a hostage. That's right, let's have a frank and upright fight," they exclaimed, trying to spur him into action. Ling Han could not help but grin. "Several hundred to over 1,000 of you guys against only one of me, and this can still be considered a frank and upright fight?" Still, he was really unafraid. "Since you all want to fight, then let us have a fight." Ling Han casually tossed the hostage in his grasp to one side. What was there for him to fear? "Ha ha, beat him up." The several dozen people once more rushed over, and even more surrounded them to watch the fight. Even a casual strike from a shattering void tear could shoot out attacks from over 30 meters away, but over 1,000 of them were really still too many, and it was definitely impossible for them to deliver their attacks all at the same time. Ling Han clenched his right hand into a fist, and punched out. Peng! His strength was really too powerful. A punch from him, and it was like a mountain peak crashing down. Instantly, over a dozen people were sent flying, and directly passed out. The students of the Western institution were all shocked. What kind of battle prowess was that if a single punch could send over a dozen of them flying? They had been accepted by the Scarlet Heaven Academy, so which one of them was not a genius among geniuses? "Let's go, I don't believe we still cannot deal with him when there's so many of us here." Like an ocean, people rushed out towards Ling Han. However, Ling Han merely needed to shot out a punch, and there would be over a dozen people sent flying like they were straws. They would pass out with a single strike, and lose all ability to continue battle. Over a dozen punches later, more than 200 people collapsed onto the ground. Even though there were close to 1,800 people of the Western institution still standing, that was only a matter that could be resolved with an additional 100 or so punches. Too monstrous. How could a shattering void tier cultivator be as strong as this? They were all humans, so why was the difference between them so huge? Should they also squeeze into some small world and learn through experience? Is there anyone else? Ling Han asked calmly, his eyes sweeping over the remaining 1,800 people. Those that his gaze passed over could not help but lower their eyes, not daring to make eye contact with him. He was obviously not equipped with King's Chi, so why did he possess such powerful intimidation? "Let's go, we definitely cannot allow him to leave so easily. Otherwise, what would remain of the pride of our Western institution? We must detain him at all cost." Chapter 935 Invincible, Sweeping Aside All Opposition. Chapter 935 Invincible, Sweeping Aside All Opposition. The students of the Western institution surged forth continuously, dashing forward bravely without care for their safety. This was not a mortal duel. No matter how harsh Ling Han was, he could not possibly kill or cripple them. As a result, they had lost much of their wariness, and aroused their bloodthirst and courage, determined to give this scoundrel that dared not to take their Western institution seriously a good thrashing. Unfortunately, no matter how many lambs there were, How could they be a match for a fierce lion? What more when they could not even be considered lambs in front of Ling Han? Ling Han threw out a careless punch, and the people dispersed like they were flowers scattered by a divine fairy. Peng, immediately, over a dozen people were sent flying. It seemed accomplished very easily, and was not the slightest bit difficult. Senior brother Jiao, it's all up to you now. Everyone turned their eyes to a thin young man. He looked like a bean sprout, and his whole body looked like it was skin wrapped over bones. This young man nodded, and suddenly took a deep breath. Peng, his left shoulder and hand seemed to have been pumped full of air, and abruptly enlarged. Then, it was his right arm, torso, his 2 legs. Only his head still maintained its original appearance. Abruptly, he had transformed from a bean sprout into a 9-meter-tall giant. His muscles were bursting, and reflected light as if they were covered in a layer of oil. Senior brother has cultivated an incomplete heaven-swallowing technique. Normally, he only has battle prowess of 18 stars, but once he explodes, his battle prowess can reach 21 stars, or even more than that. Humph, senior brother Jiao's talent is not weaker than Yi Chengyun's in the first place. However, Yi Chengyun could attain 21 stars of battle prowess in normal condition, whereas senior brother Jiao's exploded battle prowess will definitely be capable of surpassing him. 22 stars. Everyone was filled with anticipation. Their senior brother Jiao should be able to save the day, suppressing Ling Han so that the Western institution would not continue being embarrassed. Peng! 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 Senior brother Jiao rushed out towards Ling Han. His current figure was huge and frighteningly heavy. Every step he placed on the ground was as loud as a clap of thunder, and even the ground itself was trembling as if it would split open at any moment. With him rushing forth like that, everyone else raced away. Senior brother Jiao was too strong now. They would suffer even if merely the shock wave swept over them. Hong! Senior brother disciple Jiao shot out a punch, aiming at Ling Han's head. In front of his colossal body that was 9 meters tall, Ling Han was practically like a newborn, pitifully small. Thrash him to death, the masses cheered. Ling Han was slightly surprised. The battle prowess this giant exploded with had actually surpassed Yi Chengyun's. Unfortunately, he had obviously used a kind of secret technique to forcefully boost his battle prowess, and could only maintain his boosted battle prowess for a pitifully short time. Yet it was precisely because of that the focused explosion of battle prowess would naturally be incomparably terrifying. Still, compared with Ling Han, this bit of battle prowess was absolutely not enough. Ling Han stretched out his hand, parrying lightly. The fist that senior brother had shot out could not descend any further once it had arrived right on top of Ling Han's head. But, because their 2 figures were completely unequal, while this fist from senior brother Jiao was frighteningly huge, covering Ling Han's head, others would not be able to see the real situation. Many of them thought that Ling Han had been hit, and could not help but begin cheering. They roared for a while, but when they discovered that Ling Han was still standing firm, they could not help but look stunned. Was this guy a monster? Ling Han lifted his hand, and senior brother Jiao's massive torso was raised high above his head. He was like an ant lifting up a huge lion, making for a bizarre and disharmonious scene. Go! Ling Han swatted his hand, and Xiao, senior brother Jiao, was tossed away. He landed heavily on a wall, and stopped with a bang. Pu! Senior brother Jiao let out a shockingly loud fart, launching his whole person up into the air. However, his body was quickly shrinking, and in an instant, he returned to his original size. His battle prowess had also returned to 18 stars of shattering void tear. Even someone as strong as senior brother Jiao was no match for Ling Han. Finally, the students of the Western institution became afraid. The person they were facing was no ordinary genius. An advantage in numbers was not the slightest bit useful in front of this monster. Ling Han cracked a smile, and asked, "You still want to fight?" They all looked at the people who were lying all over the place. By now, the number had surpassed more than half of them, yet Ling Han was still looking as if he hadn't even warmed up yet, completely unruffled and calm. They shook their heads simultaneously. They were not going to fight anymore. This guy was too monstrous. Their best bet was to wait for this monster to advance into the mountain river tier so that they could ask their senior brother and senior sister disciples in the mountain river tier to deal with him. If we aren't going to fight anymore, I'm going back to sleep. Ling Han did not say any more words of apology. He had already thrashed more than half of the people of the Western institution onto the ground, so if he said anything along the lines of apologies, it would be as if he was showing off, having the opposite effect. He left, his arms crossed behind his back. The people of the Western institution could only watch helplessly, their eyes shooting fire. Actually, Ling Han himself was also very displeased. Although he had really shown off his might here, he had been forced to do so. Zhao Lun, looks like our feud is established. Ling Han thought. Did he have the ability to oppose Zhao Lun now? No. Setting aside Zhao Lun, even the three great followers beneath him, as well as the subordinates below these followers, were people he was no match for. There was nothing that could be done. The gap between the mountain river tier and shattering void tier was too massive. I have to rush up to the mountain river tier. Then, with my potential, it would definitely not be difficult to become a 5-star genius. Then, I would be able to match an opponent in the middle stage of the middle levels of the mountain river tier when I myself am in the lower levels. At least I would not be so passive. Zhao Lun resents me because of senior sister Shui, so she would be his weakness. Then, I will pretend to be intimate with senior sister Shui to get back at him. I'm not someone who doesn't take revenge when he should. On the second day, the monthly assessment that took place once every month in the Northern Institution began. This was to assess everyone's abilities and check whether they had improved or degraded. After all, there were some that had entered into the academy with gritted teeth after they successfully enrolled into the academy. It could not be helped that they would relax and no longer work hard at cultivation. So, it was possible for their abilities to not rise, but instead fall. The path of martial arts was an uphill battle. If someone's ability declined, the first time would garner them a warning, the second time would result in elimination of all favorable conditions, and the third would lead to expulsion. Thus, the monthly assessment was still quite important. Over 500 new students arrived. Shui Yenyu's eyes swept once over each person's face, and she said, "Today, the monthly assessment will be conducted. Everyone must put their full effort into it. If you perform worse than when you entered the academy, you will receive a warning from the academy, and after 3 times, you will be directly expelled." Yes, they all answered with utmost seriousness. Ling Han raised his hand, stood up, and asked, "Senior sister, if we get the first place, is there any reward?" Shui Yenyu shook her head, and answered, "No. No reward." Instantly, Ling Han lost all interest. Sprawling out on the table, he dozed off. If there was no reward, what motivation was there for him to do well? Looking at his laid-back appearance, Shui Yenyu could not help but feel irritated. This guy, his ability was obviously so strong, so why did he not have the slightest bit of assertiveness? Where was your sense of responsibility? If it weren't for the fact that this guy was her husband in name, she would really not bother herself with him. "Let's begin," she declared, displeased. This so-called test, in simple terms, was a fight. If that was not the case, what else could it be? Yet no one dared to challenge Ling Han. They had all agreed tacitly that he was in the first place. What a joke. Just yesterday, senior brother Ling had challenged the whole Western institution all by himself. How awesome was that? If you were stronger than senior brother Ling, then wouldn't you have to step out as well if the Western institution came and looked for trouble? Wouldn't that be looking for a beating? Thus, Ling Han had obviously not fought a single battle, but he had automatically obtained the first place in this monthly assessment. Chapter 936, Heavenly Sea Mystery Realm. Chapter 936, Heavenly Sea Mystery Realm. After the examination, Ling Han deliberately approached Shui Yenyu to ask a question, moving close to her. He was very well versed in cultivation, and had an extraordinarily profound understanding. A few words, and he had already managed to arouse Shui Yenyu's interest. She was completely unaware that she was getting too close to Ling Han. Perhaps, in her heart, she had already tacitly consented to Ling Han having certain privileges, hence letting her guard down. Ling Han secretly laughed in his heart. There's definitely bound to be Zhao Lun's spy here. If that's the case, take a good look then, and quickly go report it. Western Institution. A few young men who had images of mountains and rivers fluttering behind them stood with their hands clasped behind their backs, looking down at a group of red-faced shattering void tier junior brother and sister disciples, their expressions considerably unpleasant. Just one person, charging in alone, yet the lot of you couldn't even manage to stop him? And not only did you lot fail to stop him, but also let him injure so many people. You bunch of useless trash. Or so these senior brothers of Mountain River tier reprimanded them. They were all from the lower level section of the Western Institution. After learning that Ling Han had single-handedly caused a stir in the shattering void tier division yesterday, they had come over today to verify the situation. Could this Ling Han possibly have some kind of superhuman powers? They felt nothing but utter disdain. After all, there were too many students in the Scarlet Heaven Academy, and a mere shattering void tier cultivator, no matter how much of a genius he was, would not warrant the attention of the Mountain River tier. Hence, they found it incomprehensible. These Western Institution junior brother and sisters were really too weak, actually letting someone so effortlessly come and go, and in so doing inadvertently causing the Western Institution to lose face. Senior brother Liu, that Ling Han is really very powerful. When he dueled with Luo Ba a few days ago, he killed Luo Ba with just a single move, as testified by witnesses of the match. Senior brother disciple Liu, whose name was Liu Heng, had achieved peak cultivation of the lower levels of the Mountain River tier, and at the same time was also a one-star genius. He was the strongest of these people, and thus recognized as the leader among these few Mountain River tier cultivators. With a face filled with indifference, Liu Heng scoffed, Luo Ba? One of the so-called three elites of the younger generation of the imperial capital? His battle prowess is merely no more than 18 to 19 stars. In reply to senior brother Liu, Luo Ba had refined a blood tear stone, and his battle prowess had already reached 21 stars. Previously, he had sparred with Yi Chengyun, which after 3 moves ended up being a draw, a student reported. Only upon hearing this did Liu Heng and his group reveal an expression of shock, for even they themselves had not reached the battle prowess of 21 stars in the first place. Yesterday, senior brother Jiao also went all out, but was still defeated by that Ling Han in 1 move, another student said. Liu Heng's expression became more and more solemn as he said, if that is so, then wouldn't that person already have achieved the strength of 23 stars? That is not entirely impossible, a Mountain River tier student replied. As far as I know, that guy ascended here from a small world, and on top of that, is also an emperor that opened the sky. Senior brother Liu, there's a rumor that if one were to come by opening the sky, they would be rewarded by the heavens and earth. Rewarded by the heavens and earth? Liu Heng questioned. Although he was a genius in the Mountain River tier, generally he would not bother with the affairs of a small world whatever for. Opening the sky and being rewarded by heavens and earth. What did it have to do with him? It is said that one could obtain an infusion of strength, thereby making up for the gap in strength of the final 3 stars. Liu Heng was now struck with awe as he said, opening the sky needs the battle prowess of at least 20 stars, coupled with the strength of 3 stars, his battle prowess has then achieved 23 stars. This ought to be inexplicable. There was definitely none among shattering void tier that could equal such a monster. Right. He suddenly clapped his hands, and remarked, the competition between the 3 empires is about to start, which also signifies the opening of the Heavenly Sea mysterious realm. Senior brother Liu, what do you mean? If that guy can enter into the Heavenly Sea mystery realm, then his life and death would be in our hands, Liu Heng sneered. Ha, if he is qualified to enter, then we'll teach him a lesson. At the waterfall. In a tone betraying his astonishment and disbelief, Zhao Lun asked, even the entire Western Institution could not stop him? The second follower of his men, Bai Yuanxi, respectfully said, in reply to young master, that guy's battle prowess is suspected to have already reached 23 stars. Without the support of power of the nation, it is reckoned there are none among shattering void tier that could defeat him. Zhao Lun's expression darkened suddenly. When he had been in the shattering void tier, he had only reached the battle prowess of 20 stars, yet now there was someone whose battle prowess surpassed his by a good 3 stars. He found it somewhat displeasing. With his battle prowess, this time he would surely be able to lead our empire to win the first place in the competition among the 3 empires. Her Imperial Majesty the Empress is fair and just in meting out punishments and granting rewards where it's warranted, so probably she would bestow upon him a chance to enter into the Heavenly Sea Mystery Realm, by UNC added. Heavenly Sea Mystery Realm. Zhao Lun's eyes gleamed. The reason why he had been able to become a 4-star genius had an inseparable relation with his entering into the Heavenly Sea Mystery Realm in the past, which allowed him to attain a special ability. If he were to enter into the Heavenly Sea Mystery Realm, then don't let him out ever again, he said coldly. Though he knew Shui Yenyu's temperament like the back of his hand, the fact remained that the recent rumors still made him utterly displeased. Yes. By UNC promptly half knelt. Time flew by quickly. Ling Han had been very low-key, and remained within the academy, not giving the Dark Knight Hall a chance to assassinate him. On Zhao Lun's side, he had also become rather peaceful, and did not wreak havoc anymore. Day by day, the competition among the 3 empires approached closer and closer. On this day, Ling Han was summoned over by the Left Minister. Tomorrow was the day of the competition among the 3 empires, thus, he was to stay at the Left Minister's residence today, and enter the Imperial Palace with the Left Minister tomorrow. The competition between the 3 empires was held once every 10 years, and the chosen venue was rotated between the 3 of them. This year, it happened to be the Chaotic Star's Majestic Empire's turn. Otherwise, they would have had to set out at least half a month in advance. Ling Han, if you perform well this time, you should be able to obtain the opportunity to enter into the Heavenly Sea Mystery Realm, the Left Minister suddenly mentioned. Ling Han stared blankly, and asked, My lord, what's Heavenly Sea Mystery Realm? How dare you? Are you qualified to ask questions in front of the Left Minister? Xiong Chengyun berated him at once. The Left Minister smiled subtly, his hand moving in a waving gesture as he said, No matter, no matter. He seemed to be enthusiastically engaged in the conversation as he elaborated, Heavenly Sea Mystery Realm opens once every 10 years. Within the Mystery Realm, there is a type of stone, which can help shattering void tier cultivators form mountains and rivers, infinitely shortening the time needed to break through and also greatly heightening the rate of success. Given it having such an effect, we all termed it as Mountain River Stone. It is the speciality of the Heavenly Sea Mystery Realm. As to why it is so, and why it's not found in other places, that no one knows. Some unique Mountain River Stones even have extraordinary effects. For instance, the Heavy Origin Stone can make the mountains and rivers that you form possess an exceedingly heavy effect. Drawing it out when in combat will cause your opponent to be weighed down by your mountains and rivers. Meanwhile, Flame Stone will let your mountains and rivers possess an extreme fiery power. There's no object that will not melt away. However, the Heavenly Sea Mystery Realm has specific restrictions on a cultivator's cultivation level, and only allows the maximum cultivation level of the lower levels of the Mountain River tier to enter. Hence, there are many of those in your academy who purposely suppress their cultivation just for the sake of entering into the Heavenly Sea Mystery Realm a few more times. The Left Minister has spoken a great deal in one breath, a nostalgic expression playing on his face. When I was younger, I did not have much of a background, therefore, I did not have the chance to enter. Otherwise, if I could possess certain secret powers of the Mountain River tier, perhaps my battle prowess could already attain the level of 5-star genius. Ling Han was astonished. If even the Left Minister had such deep emotions towards it, then this Heavenly Sea Mystery Realm was really a place worth going to. Chapter 937, The Stage Battles Begin. Chapter 937, The Stage Battles Begin. The Left Minister merely sighed, but did not further elaborate on the situation of the Heavenly Sea Mystery Realm. Since the Left Minister did not say anything, Ling Han naturally did not probe for more information. He intended to find out more about it from Shui Yenyu upon his return. They were taking a ride on the Left Minister's carriage, its speed was amazing, and they arrived outside the Imperial Palace in a short span of time. When they reached this point, even the Left Minister couldn't bring in his carriage. After they had gotten down from the carriage, the guards checked the trio's identities before letting them pass. While we are here, you mustn't speak rashly, the left minister warned severely. Yes. Ling Han and Xiong Chengyun acknowledged. This was the central authority of the entire chaotic star's majestic empire, and one of the 3 central administrations of the joint peace planet. The main color theme of the palace was pink. It was quite feminine, but there was no helping it, since the sovereign here was an empress with the reputation of the world's #1 beauty. Even the monarchs of the other 2 majestic empires were willing to give up their territory and throne for her. If she wasn't full of feminine charms, who would be? Ling Han was somewhat expectant. He was finally able to meet Her Imperial Majesty, the legendary Empress, and see for himself how enticing and enchanting she was that even the other 2 great monarchs would be willing to become her subjects. Xiong Chengyun also wasn't able to stop himself from hyperventilating. It wasn't that he had never seen the Empress before, but her beauty was too alluring, so much so that the thought of meeting her made his heart beat faster and his breathing ragged. It could be said that anyone who had seen Her Imperial Majesty, the Empress, would no longer see another person as a beauty, and could only have eyes for such a stunning character with capability of causing chaos amongst the common folk. Compared to the Empress, the other so-called beauties would totally dim in comparison, and be considered dregs among dregs. Entering deep into the palace, the guards here were substituted with females. It was probably for fear of men being unreliable. If they were the guards here, the possibility of embezzlement would be higher, and in turn, it would be unsafe. The venue for the martial arts competition had been set up in the Imperial training field. Not only was the venue of the competition massive, the seating area for the audience was also very large. There were 4 spectators' grandstands towering above like overhanging cliffs. The one located in the south was by far the largest, like a monarch among them. This was naturally the exclusive seat of the Empress. Usually, only the 9 kings were allowed to go up there. The other 3 grandstands were much smaller. The one located in the east had been assigned to the Emperor of the Eternity Sky Majestic Empire, the one in the west assigned to the Jade Drop Majestic Empire, and the one in the north would be shared by top officials such as the left and right ministers and 7 great generals. Whenever the 3 majestic empires held this competition, given that this would involve the pride of an entire nation, the standards were extremely high. The other 2 majestic empires had each sent a crown prince to lead their respective teams. Leading the Eternity Sky Majestic Empire's team was the brother of its current emperor, while the Jade Drop Majestic Empire's team was led by their emperor's 4th uncle. They were all powerful bigwigs that stood above all levels of society, and their cultivation levels had already reached the heavenly body tier. Of course, Ling Han wasn't qualified to sit in any of the 4 grandstands. As for Xiong Chengyun, he was only able to stand in the north grandstand thanks to the left minister. Naturally, being at the bottom meant that Ling Han couldn't see the situation at the grandstand high above, which made him find it somewhat regrettable as he wouldn't be able to see the Empress of Chaotic Star's majestic empire even if she had come. It wasn't that he harbored any special feelings for Her Imperial Majesty, the Empress. It was just that he had heard so much about her exquisite beauty being beyond comparison that it made him curious, and he wanted to see her with his own eyes. The contestants of the 3 majestic empires stood on the imperial training field. A stage had been erected in the middle. This was a stage battle. Naturally, there would be rules for a stage battle. Any contestant that fell off the stage would be considered defeated. Otherwise, if one could run away and the other gave chase, then when would the competition be concluded? With the kind of powerful bigwigs present here, how could they spend so much time watching the show of shattering void tier cultivators? Brother Ling, I've just gotten some news. There's trouble this time. Xiong Chengyun suddenly ran over, waved to the other 8 people, and said, "Everyone, come and listen." "What kind of trouble?" Ma Xing said offhandedly. "With Brother Ling here, we will definitely take first place." "That's right." The others nodded one by one. Ling Han's performance had completely won them over. Xiong Chengyun actually shook his head to that as he said, "That's precisely it. I've just received some information, and done my research on the background of the contestants from the other 2 majestic empires. They also have 2 exceptional contestants. Can they be more exceptional than Brother Ling?" Ma Xing said while putting up his hands, seemingly not bothered. Xiong Chengyun shook his head, and said, "The contestant from the Eternity Sky Majestic Empire is said to be the descendant of the Peacock Flame King, while the one from Jade Drop Majestic Empire is known as the Big Turtle King, and was speculated to be the descendant of the divine beast, Black Tortoise One. At this time, everyone was a little convinced. Once things involved a divine beast, the battle prowess could not be ascertained using common sense. As Ling Han was somewhat intrigued, he said, "That I would like to see." He was so strong that he always had an overwhelming advantage over other shattering void tier cultivators. On the contrary, having another person who could challenge him was actually a pleasant surprise. Being invincible was fucking lonely. Seeing that Ling Han was so confident, everyone's heart somewhat settled down. Although Ling Han did not possess any bloodline advantage, he was also exceptional indeed. "Her Imperial Majesty arrives," a female official shouted loudly, and her voice reverberated above the training ground. Sure, everyone stood up to welcome the arrival of the Empress. Ling Han looked up towards the southern grandstand, yet he could not see anything. He could not help but be disappointed. There was a commotion in the grandstands above. The Empress of the Chaotic Stars Majestic Empire was not only renowned throughout the world for her formidable strength, her exquisite beauty had even won over the hearts of the other two emperors. Who wouldn't want to take another look at her? It was a pity that due to location, only the people on the other three grandstands were able to view the true face of the Empress. Let's start," said a somewhat stuttering voice. It was precisely the Ninth King's. Sure enough, the Ninth King and the Empress were like sisters, and this voice was transmitted from the southern grandstand above. The winner for first place in the previous competition was Eternity Sky Majestic Empire, so they will be defending. The second place for the previous competition was Chaotic Stars Majestic Empire, so they would take the lead in attacking first, while Jade Drop Majestic Empire will be the second to attack. The Ninth King had adjusted her emotions, and no longer stuttered in her next sentence. The three Majestic Empires apparently had already arranged the order of appearance for each of their respective contestants. Therefore, when the voice of the Ninth King fell, one contestant from the Eternity Sky Majestic Empire had jumped onto the stage. On the other side, a contestant of the Chaotic Stars Majestic Empire by the name of Mo Xiong had taken the lead to attack. Ling Han didn't pay much attention to it. He would be the last to battle, being the strongest. There was still a lot of time to spare until his turn. He wasn't concerned with how many people would be left on either side. He was searching around in the ordinary stands, and soon caught sight of Shui Yenyu. She had come with other people from the academy. After discovering Ling Han's gaze, several female companions around her suddenly laughed and made fun of Shui Yenyu, causing the beauty to flush red with embarrassment. Ling Han saw Luo lie again. He sat behind several middle-aged and old men. After discovering Ling Han's gaze, his own gaze became somewhat strange. It was filled with anger, but he also appeared somewhat pleased with himself. However, those middle-aged and elderly people cast a cold gaze towards Ling Han, and did not conceal their killing intent in the slightest. They were all members of the Luo clan. So that's the reason why they hate me so much, Ling Han thought to himself. Then you all had better wait and watch me make a sweeping victory, helping you resent me even more. Chapter 938 Invincible Defense. Chapter 938 Invincible Defense. The fight progressed very quickly. Being confined to a small platform left no room for movement techniques to be brought forth. In a matter of a few moves, contestants were already locked in combat at close quarters. It was but a little over half an hour, yet only 3 people were left on the Chaotic Stars Majestic Empire's side, and there was not much difference on the 2 other sides, either. Facts proved that apart from Ling Han, this kind of monster that emerged occasionally, the 3 Majestic Empire's reserves of top-rate talents were more or less the same. When Ma Xing was also defeated, Yi Chengyun stepped forth to fight. He picked 4 opponents from the 2 Majestic Empires to firstly force the leader of the team from the Eternity Sky Majestic Empire out. It was a woman. She was of a slender frame, with features so beautiful they were like art, and long hair that fell straight down, touching her rear. Her style of dressing was also very refreshing. Her top was extremely short, and actually exposed a small stretch of her waist, which was fair as ivory and smooth as fine jade. Her bottom, on the other hand, was clad in a pair of leather pants, which were cut off below the knee, revealing a pair of flawless porcelain-like calves, forming a stark contrast with the black color of the leather pants, which made them even more prominently snowy. Her figure was really too perfect. She had a curvaceous plump rear the shape of ripened peaches, so tempting that one just wanted to take a bite off it. The light reflected off her pants made her asterisk appear even more profoundly stirring. Eternity Sky Majestic Empire, Yu Ronga. She cupped her fists in greeting. Yi Chengyun revealed traces of a stunned expression as he reciprocated the gesture, and in return greeted, Chaotic Stars Majestic Empire, Yi Chengyun. Please. Please. As soon as the formalities were over, Yu Ronga immediately launched an attack, her figure leaping forth while giving rise to a stream of light. Her speed was extremely swift, appearing in front of Yi Chengyun in a fraction of a second as she pressed her palm forward. Yi Chengyun was taken aback. This speed was beyond anything he'd expected. Nevertheless, she was the leader guarding the frontier of the opposing party, and he had expected that her strength would be formidable. In any case, he was also someone with battle prowess of 21 stars of shattering void tier, and his strength was astonishingly powerful. He immediately clenched his fist and slammed it towards his opponent. Peng! The fist and palm strongly collided. However, Yi Chengyun was immediately sent flying by the force from the impact, and landed outside the platform. Unexpectedly, he was not on par with his opponent at all. Ling Han's eyes brightened. The battle prowess that this woman displayed was only of 21 stars and slightly above, not even 22 stars yet. However, she also did not draw on any secret techniques at all, which showed that her battle prowess had definitely surpassed 22 stars, or had even possibly already reached 23 stars. With Yi Chengyun's defeat, it was the Jade Drop Majestic Empire's turn to send forth their leader. Jade Drop Majestic Empire, Zhong Hai. He was a man with an extremely odd figure. His stature was not short, yet he had a stooped back, and his back was akin to a tortoise's. Not only was it flat, but it was also carrying a semicircular form. A descendant of the black tortoise. It could indeed possibly not be just mere hearsay. The two then engaged in a fierce battle. From the offense aspect, Yu Ronga had the upper hand, but Zhong Hai had also inherited the tortoise's defensive capabilities. No matter how strong the offense that came his way, he only needed to turn his back around, and that tortoise-like back could easily receive any strike. The only way to injure him would be to draw near and fight him at close range, without giving him time to turn around. But to fight at close range would be too dangerous. It was also not suitable for a cultivator of origin power. It was the offensive tactic of a cultivator of body arts. Yu Ronga's strength evidently went beyond this. She exclaimed softly, "Peacock's numerous plumes, shatters the cosmos." Suddenly, a beautiful spread of plumes appeared on her back, akin to a peacock fanning out its tail in a splash of colors. Next, the total of 72 plumes all shot out directly towards Zhong Hai at the same time. There was no such thing as an absolute defense in this world, only an offense that was not powerful enough. Zhong Hai actually smirked and turned his body around as before, but this time around, his back suddenly bulged, tearing his clothes apart to reveal an oval black tortoise shell. On its surface were divine patterns that were at that moment already interwoven and emitting light. He was obviously at the shattering void tier only, yet he could activate divine patterns. Although it was only a mere few, their power naturally was incomparably formidable. This was precisely his bloodline letting him possess a bit of the power of immortal level in advance. Xiao, 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 numerous plumes shot out at the tortoise shell, evoking a dazzling burst of light rays. Numerous plumes swept past, yet Zhong Hai was unscathed. Ha 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 ha. Zhong Hai moved to fight back, but he did not attack, and just used his tortoise back as a shield and rammed towards Yu Ronga. His objective was very obvious. He wanted to knock Yu Ronga off the platform. Then, he could win without a fight. It was very underhanded, but it was very effective. The defensibility of the tortoise shell was too terrifying. Furthermore, there were divine patterns on it. A shattering void tier cultivator being slammed with it once had to be absolutely in a world of pain. When Yu Ronga was forced into a corner, it was also tantamount to proclaiming her defeat. She was knocked down from the platform. Yu Ronga was seething with anger. In terms of real battle prowess, she definitely was not inferior to Zhong Hai, but she was at too much of a disadvantage fighting on a tournament platform, and her powerful attack strength was practically useless. With this turn of events, the Eternity Sky Majestic Empire would be ranked third this time, and could only sit on the sidelines to watch the Chaotic Stars Majestic Empire and Jade Drop Majestic Empire contend for the first place. Zhong Hai's manner of attaining victory drew forth a lot of hissing sounds from the spectators. Beauties originally would attract more spectators anyways. Now, everyone naturally had sided and was in support of Yuronga. They were all too eager to boo Zhong Hai off the platform. But, Zhong Hai's face was as thick-skinned as his tortoise shell, and he stood on the platform without any traces of shame. Instead, he turned towards Ling Han and hooked a finger at him, a downright provoking stance. Senior brother Ling, eliminate him. Those from the Chaotic Stars Majestic Empire were all furious was too cocky. Ling Han smiled faintly, slowly walked to the front of the platform, and ascended the stairs, appearing to be unhurried and calm to the extreme. Hurry up. After defeating you, we shall be number one, Zhong Hai said arrogantly. Ling Han did not hasten, nor did he slow down. His spirit was firm. How would he be confused by others? He stepped onto the platform, and greeted perfunctorily, Chaotic Stars Majestic Empire, Ling Han. Jade Drop Majestic Empire, Zhong Hai. Please. Please. Similarly, right after the greetings were done and over with, Zhong Hai immediately revealed a hideous grin. Brandishing a fist, he charged towards Ling Han. Ling Han casually moved his hand in a slashing arc, and drew out a flash of sword chi, effortlessly countering this fist. You do have some strength. Zhong Hai coldly sneered, his fist just now was merely to test the waters. His expression then showed focus, while his fists clenched tightly. The originally black and white of his eyes had now changed to a deathly white. Furious sea of fists, he roared, and abruptly his fists struck simultaneously. Immediately, sounds of waves erupted, and the shadow of a tidal wave appeared striking towards Ling Han. Battle prowess of 22 stars of Shattering Void tier, almost close to 23 stars, Ling Han assessed in his heart. But, how much had his own battle prowess reached now? Go. He rushed out, striking forward with a palm. A golden brilliance surged forth, directly splitting open the tidal wave, and continued to strike towards Zhong Hai. A look of shock immediately crossed Zhong Hai's face. What exactly was this attack of his opponent, actually being able to so easily break through his furious sea of fists? He promptly turned around. This was to play the same old trick, taking advantage of his innate defense ability to get the upper hand. Hong. Ling Han's palm pressed onto the tortoise shell. Both figures were seemingly frozen in their positions, with only the flickering of the divine patterns on the tortoise shell seen. Blocked yet again. The audience were all disappointed. They were, of course, hoping that Ling Han could emerge victorious. Even for those of the Eternity Sky Majestic Empire, it was no different. A crisp and clear sound rang out, and a crack could actually be seen appearing on the tortoise shell. Next, it spread out akin to a spider's web, and in an instant already covered the whole tortoise shell. Then, piece by piece, it broke just like porcelain. Chapter 939, The Empress Summons. Chapter 939, The Empress Summons. It shattered. Tortoise, amongst normal creatures, was the synonym for powerful defense. Even a ferocious tiger or lion could do nothing against the shell of a tortoise. Moreover, after entering the level of demonic beast, the defenses of a tortoise were further enhanced. When a demonic beast cultivated to the highest level, it would be termed a divine beast, and its defenses were naturally even more incredible. Zhong Hai was born different, possessing a sliver of the bloodline of the ancient divine beast, Black Tortoise. This was reflected in his defense. She had a spot on his back that was a so-called god's territory. It was called so because only immortals would be able to break through his defenses. Looking at the platform, all the spectators were gaping with shock. There was even a considerable number of Mountain River tier and Sun Moon tier elites that were in disbelief. Ling Han was obviously only in the Shattering Void tier, so how could his battle prowess be so powerful? On the high platform, The important personages of the Jade Drop and Eternity Sky Majestic Empires even directed a probe at him. Had Ling Han borrowed aid from the power of the nation? But the disappointing fact was that there were no signs of external aid on Ling Han. Furthermore, on their national totem, those 9 mountain peaks, there was no existence of Ling Han's name. Without a name on the totem, he would not be able to draw on power of the nation. This was something everyone knew for a fact. An individual's own battle prowess could also be this strong. This surprised a great many higher-ups because Shattering Void Tier had not yet entered into immortal level, and did not have too great an effect. Thus, even great geniuses only required themselves to achieve 20 stars of battle prowess. There was no need for them to be so stubborn and reach the maximum on this step. After all, the path of cultivation was really too long. Furthermore, no matter how much you perfected your cultivation of the Shattering Void Tier, how many more stars could you increase your own ability to match an opponent on a higher cultivation level than your own? In the Mountain River Tier and Sun Moon Tier, I, too, could perfect my cultivation, so wouldn't the boost to my battle prowess be even greater? It was precisely because the battles on immortal level were too difficult that raising cultivation levels was the best strategy. Peng Zhonghai fell off the tournament stage, releasing a harsh scream in agony. This tortoise shell was a part of his body, and now that it had been shattered by force, it naturally caused him heart-rending pain. But, the way he had won earlier on was too underhanded, so when the masses saw his pitiful look now, they felt a kind of pleasure instead, feeling like their ire had been vented. The ranking has been decided. In this year's competition between the 3 majestic empires, the Chaotic Stars Majestic Empire is in the first place, the Jade Drop Majestic Empire in the second, and the Eternity Sky Majestic Empire is third. The 9th King's voice rang out from the high stage, announcing the final results. Ling Han, Yi Chengyun, and the other participants were all commended, and each received 100 true origin stones. This was quite a considerable wealth. They'd merely had to battle once, so this could be considered a hefty reward. Ling Han was just about to leave with the left minister when a palace maid caught up with them. She first bowed, and then said, under the command of Her Imperial Majesty, Ling Han is summoned for an audience. The left minister was slightly stunned, but then hurriedly and with utmost respect replied, yes. Xiong Chengyun, meanwhile, was about to go mad with jealousy. This lowlife from a small world had actually been summoned for an audience with the Empress. What kind of good fortune was that? Even he had only been able to look at the Empress from afar, and that was only because he was following the left minister. He prided himself over it, but now? This Shattering Void Tier brat was actually able to come into close contact with the Empress, instantly trampling all over his pride. He was regretful. Why had he brought Ling Han back with him at that time? It would have been better if he had just killed Ling Han directly. Wouldn't it have been all right just to establish a puppet emperor? But now, he could only regret, and did not dare to do anything else. The Empress wanted to see him, and you dared to stand in his way. Ling Han walked with that palace maid into the depths of the palace. It was incomparably quiet here. Aside from the patrolling soldiers passing by, there was no one else. Of course, the soldiers were all female. They were all in small teams of 10, led by an elite who was at perfection of the Mountain River Tier. The team members were also all in the Mountain River Tier. However, afterwards, that palace maid brought Ling Han to the doors of a side palace hall. The doors were completely forged from a pink-colored crystal, which looked like a beautiful gemstone. Reporting to Your Imperial Majesty, Ling Han has been brought, the palace maid informed, kneeling at the doors. Enter. A dignified voice was heard from within. Yet, there was still incomparable charm hidden in this voice, as sweet as honey. Anyone who heard this voice would feel incredibly at ease. The palace maid nodded at Ling Han, and walked into the palace hall. Ling Han followed her in. He had keenly discovered that there was an imperial guard hidden behind every giant stone pillar each as wide as 3 meters, and their aura was deep and immeasurable. At least they were not people he could sense clearly. There was a total of 18 such pillars, and they stretched all the way to the end of the palace hall. There was an imperial throne there, and seated high on this throne was a woman dressed in imperial robes. However, there was divine light flickering over her, so her exact features could not be clearly seen. Still, even though she was incredibly blurry, she had a bone-deep charm that would melt anyone's heart. The greatest beauty in the world. It was indeed a fully justified reputation. She was merely seated there, and there was an irresistible grace to her. Ling Han sighed, but still had to kneel on one knee, and said, "This Ling Han pays respects to your Imperial Majesty." She was an ultimate elite standing at the perfection of the heavenly body tier. She herself could possibly be a 5-star genius, and added with power of the nation, even if not in the Eternal River tier, she should at least be unmatchable in the heavenly body tier. Facing this kind of elite, respect was a must. When the eyes of the Empress of the Chaotic Star's majestic empire ran over him, Ling Han abruptly felt as if he had been seen through completely. It was as if in front of her, there were no secrets he could hide. "Coming from a small world, you have not had it easy," she said, her voice holding a tone of commendation. Ling Han suddenly felt ecstasy that rushed up to his head, but his heart immediately clenched. Why was it that with only a single compliment from her, he was filled with an impulse that he could die for her? The charisma of this empress was really too frightening, wasn't it? She had obviously not used any kind of technique. It was only mere words, and added with her own personal beauty and bearing her beauty was even blurred. It had enchanted him so deeply. It was no wonder that even the 2 emperors in the heavenly body tier were captivated by her. Indeed, this kind of charisma was really too hard to resist. "Thank you for your praise, Your Imperial Majesty," Ling Han said solemnly, his gaze lowered, not daring to have a second look. This empress was really a great source of calamity. Even compared with the charisma of Shui Yenyu and Zhu Xian'er, hers was far superior. At least, as far as Ling Han knew, the only one able to match, or even surpass, her in terms of bearing was only that previous mistress of the Rock Palace. However, the bearing of these 2 women was of completely different types. Although that person of the Rock Palace spoke gently, she was so elegant and distant that others would only feel reverence and admiration, and not dare to have any other wild thoughts. Yet though this empress in front of him spoke aloofly, she was like a sweet poison, and would make one feel like he could not stop himself. He would be willing to become a moth flying into a flame, not regretting even unto death. This should be related to the cultivation technique that this empress had cultivated. Otherwise, it would definitely be impossible that she would be so enchanting and captivating with her grace. Ling Han did not think that he would be able to resist this empress's charisma for much longer with his present cultivation. Thus, it was best for him not to look, avoiding falling head over heels into her unwitting trap, rendered incapable of freeing himself again. "You have saved our empire from a crisis, and won 1,000 slots to enter into the Heavenly Sea Mystery Realm. Thus, I shall make an exception and gift you an entry slot," the Empress of the Chaotic Star's majestic empire said. "Thank you, Your Imperial Majesty." This reward was within Ling Han's expectations. Furthermore, would such an important personage like the Empress summon him deliberately just to personally announce this piece of news to him? It seemed like the battle prowess that he had exhibited was too astonishing, and even the Empress of the Chaotic Star's majestic empire wanted to see him from up close. Chapter 940, A Long History. Chapter 940, A Long History. After exiting the Imperial Palace, Ling Han's mind was still completely filled with that alluring figure of the Empress of the Chaotic Star's majestic empire. She was really a super calamity. Initially, Ling Han would occasionally think of his parents, the beauties, his friends, and his son, but now all he could think of was the appearance of the Empress. Furthermore, he had obviously never even seen the true appearance of this Empress, yet had managed to imagine an incredibly attractive, beautiful face. It was like a combination of all the beautiful women that he had met, with all their merits put together, piecing together a beautiful face that one could find no flaw in. It was like a voice inside his heart was telling Ling Han that this Empress should be the most beautiful woman in this world. This was disastrous, really disastrous. Ling Han contemplated inwardly the indestructible Heaven Scroll, and only after a long, long while did he manage to erase the figure of the Empress of the Chaotic Star's majestic empire from his mind. Yet in his heart, a feeling of longing rose up, causing him to shake his head. That he would actually be so captivated. It was practically as if he had been bewitched. The Chaotic Star's majestic empire won the first place this time round, and thus attained 1,000 slots for entering into the Heavenly Sea Mystery Realm, whereas the other two great majestic empires would each have 500 slots. 1,000 entry slots seemed like a lot, but in truth, it was absolutely not enough to share. Who did not desire a slot? Mountain River Stone, for any Mountain River tier cultivator, was greatly beneficial. Not only could it help boost cultivation level, it could also give an individual a unique skill. For shattering void tier cultivators, that was even more valuable. They could skip the step of comprehension, and directly form their mountains and rivers to advance into this cultivation level. However, if one depended on Mountain River Stone to break through, the limit would be the peak of the lower levels of Mountain River Stone. Unless he could make a breakthrough himself on martial arts, he could only remain in this level forever. The heavens were naturally just. For these entry slots, everyone was practically about to come to blows. Because the Empress of the Chaotic Star's majestic empire had no children, she only took a few slots and handed them over to the Ninth King so she could enter into the Heavenly Sea Mystery Realm and train. Aside from her, there were also a few guards entering to ensure her safety. As for the remaining entry slots, she handed them to the left and right ministers, and the 7 great generals to distribute them to those worthy. The 9 kings' status was above the courts. Although their authority was superior to the left and right ministers and the 7 great generals, their priority only lay in cultivation. They had never interfered in matters of the imperial court. This was also a reason why the left minister and the other higher-ups were willing to yield to their superior authority. The imperial capital would definitely be bustling in these few days as the various clans would be running around for their own people. That was Mountain River Stone, and they could nurture outstanding heirs with it. In any case, Ling Han had already gained an entry slot. That was something personally bestowed on him by the Empress, and no one could possibly snatch it from him. Thus, he calmly returned to the academy. He had initially wanted to immediately seek out Shui Yenyu to ask her about matters concerning the Heavenly Sea Mystery Realm, but just when he had that thought, he realized that he did not know where Shui Yenyu was in the academy, and so could not help but smile. Then he'd just ask another person. Ling Han sought out Lin Yu. The latter came from a noble background, and was known for being just, so there was naturally no problem just to ask him a few questions. Lin Yu was very cordial, and when he knew why Ling Han had come, he told Ling Han all the information he knew about the resources in the Heavenly Sea Mystery Realm. The history of this mystery realm was far longer than the history of the Chaotic Star's majestic empire. The inheritance of the Jade Drop and Eternity Sky majestic empires could be numbered in hundreds of millions of years. At the time, the competition was actually only between these two great majestic empires, until finally, about 1,000,000 years ago, the Empress of the Chaotic Star's majestic empire came into being suddenly. Walking out from a small country, battling step by step, she finally formed the current balance of power between the 3 empires. However, the origin of the Heavenly Sea Mystery Realm was even earlier than the 2 great majestic empires of Jade Drop and Eternity Sky. Before these 2 great nations were established, or perhaps when the joint peace planet was still in that ancient era, this mystery realm had already existed. Hence, no one knew the origins of this mystery realm. The only thing known was that there were Mountain River Stones inside, and there were some in the most precious category. Unfortunately, one could not recultivate Mountain River tier once he had broken through. Otherwise, this mystery realm would be even more important. The entrance to this mystery realm would only open for half a day. After about 2,000 people had entered, it would have reached its limit. If more entered, they would directly be killed. As for the question of how long one could stay in the mystery realm, it was indefinite. Sometimes, it would only be half a month, and sometimes it would be half a year. This mystery realm imposed a limit on the maximum cultivation level, but had no limit on the minimum cultivation level. It could only accommodate cultivators in the lower levels of Mountain River tier and below, and should anyone with a higher cultivation level, they would be torn to pieces. Even heavenly body tier elites were no exception. Thus, some have deduced that this mystery realm had to be the creation of an ultimate elite of the Genesis tier. Otherwise, how could there possibly appear such extremely valuable treasures like the Mountain River Stone? In the next few days, The imperial capital was indeed flaring up over these 1,000 entry slots. Clans with even the slightest bit of power were all running around, delivering gifts to the residences of the left and right ministers, as well as the 7 great generals, so that they could gain an entry slot. Because those in the lower levels of the mountain river tier could also enter, naturally not much attention was paid to Ling Han. In the shattering void tier, he could be considered invincible, but in the mountain river tier, any mountain river tier cultivator would be able to dominate him easily. However, Shui Yenyu absolutely disagreed with this. She was speaking from experience, and clearly knew how terrifying Ling Han's physique could be. In the Scarlet Heaven Academy, a few of the higher-ranked mountain river tier elites were chased after by the various forces. There were some that obviously came from humble backgrounds, without any powerful backer, yet unexpectedly gained the qualification to enter. An example was someone called Tang Fei. He was the #1 genius in the lower levels of the mountain river tier at the Northern Institution. He was a commoner, yet had been selected personally by the Lord Left Minister this time, and could enter into the Heavenly Sea Mystery Realm. His purpose was naturally for the sake of protecting Li Weiwei. This was very lavish, but the Left Minister did not care. He only had 4 daughters, and this youngest daughter of his was favorite. For the sake of ensuring his beloved daughter could have a fated opportunity, as well as guaranteeing her safety, what did the mere sacrifice of a single entry slot count as? After preparing for 7 days, the 1,000 people to enter the Heavenly Sea Mystery Realm were confirmed. These people all boarded a luxurious warship, which flew towards their destination. This was where the borders of the 3 nations crossed. It was a desolate plain, which Ling Han thought was odd. There was a sea in the name of the Heavenly Sea Mystery Realm, so what about the sea? Where was it? The people from the other 2 great majestic empires had arrived as well. They had also arrived via a warship. Otherwise, even in the case of the mountain river tier cultivators, the journey on foot would take months. The leader of the team from the Chaotic Star's majestic empire was one of the 7 great generals, Ding Lian. He was also the only one of the 7 great generals that had not married and had children yet. Apparently, this great general was desperately in love with the empress of the Chaotic Star's majestic empire, and thus vowed to never marry. However, it was obviously an unrequited love, and he was destined to remain single for the rest of his life. Since he was single, the only thing left for him was cultivation. As a result, Ding Lian's cultivation level was very high. He had already attained the peak of the lower levels of the heavenly body tier, and he himself was a 4-star genius, so he could match an ordinary cultivator in the middle levels of the heavenly body tier. The other 2 great majestic empires had also sent us similar heavyweights, appearing to be very serious about this. After all, those that entered into the mystery realm were either the descendants of important people of their respective majestic empires, or prodigious geniuses. There was absolutely no room for failure. Shui Yenyu, Ji Yuna, Lin Yu, Yi Chengyun and the others had also gained the qualification to enter with the power of their respective clans. However, though Ma Xing had extraordinary talent, he did not gain the chance to enter, because he did not have any important background. To be honest, if it wasn't for the fact that the Empress had allowed Ling Han to enter with a personal imperial decree, he might not have been able to get this 1 entry slot, either. The reality was just that cruel. Chapter 941, It's still Ling Han that has an unyielding character. Chapter 941, It's still Ling Han that has an unyielding character. Ling Han's eyes swept over the people assembled, and saw that many were looking at him with sneers on their faces, not hiding their killing intent in the least. There were the senior brother and senior sister disciples from the Western Institution, the members of the Luo clan, and the subordinates of Zhao Lun, and they were all in the low extreme of the mountain river tier. They were staring at Ling Han as if they were looking at a vulnerable lamb, their eyes filled with cruelty and heartlessness. At first, Ling Han would not know so many people, but Lin Yu was standing beside him and introduced them to him one after another, so he had some idea inside his head. The Heavenly Sea Mystery Realm did not merely possess fateful opportunities, but also endless danger. Hence, it was absolutely normal for a number of people to die within, and it was absolutely impossible to find out who the culprits were. A mystery realm had always been the best location to settle personal grudges. If you were afraid to die, then you could only choose not to enter. Fateful opportunities had always been accompanied by danger. Ling Han looked at these people, sneering inwardly. Even without the Black Tower, with how tough his present physique was now, it was not the slightest bit inferior to level 1 godly metal, and could absolutely take the attack of any cultivator at the peak of the low extreme of Mountain River tier head-on. Moreover, he still had the 7-kill subduing soul technique. It was still indefinite who would be the hunter, and who would be the prey. Additionally, he had also attained breakthrough level improvement on his 6 techniques return to 1. The only thing he lacked now was time, and as soon as he reached 20 stars of strength, he would be able to break through. When he advanced into the Mountain River tier, it would be he who would be sweeping aside all opposition. True, he did not possess any immortal level cultivation techniques, but don't forget, there were still mountain river stones that could help him directly form his mountains and rivers inside the mystery realm, though he would only be limited to the peak of the low extreme. However, those that could enter here were limited to the peak of the low extreme, so if it was a battle between equals, whom would Ling Han be afraid of? When these people looked coldly over him, Ling Han returned their looks with a chilling look of his own, not cowering in the slightest. Shui Yenyu felt a headache coming on. How could she have imagined that Ling Han was such a magnet for trouble? It was not enough for him to have a great enemy like Zhao Lun, he'd actually made an enemy of the Western institution as well as the Luo clan. She didn't know whether to be angry about how he lacked a sense of propriety, or admire how courageous Ling Han was. Li Weiwei had also come over, pulling Ji Yuna with her, chattering continuously by Ling Han's ear, and completely ignoring the fact that the top elite of the low extreme of the Mountain River tier division of the Northern Institution was standing next to her, which made Tang Feng the said elite have a very ugly look on his face. Tang Feng was presently 277 years old, had the cultivation of the peak of the low extreme of the Mountain River tier, and was honored as the top elite of the low extreme division of the Northern Institution. Merely this identity had made who knew how many beautiful senior sister and junior sister disciples throw themselves at him, recommending themselves for a position in his bed. However, he could be considered a self-disciplined person, and did not lose himself in lust, though he would occasionally let himself loose. He had not married, and faced with temptations that delivered themselves up to his doors. How much resistance could he actually have? But this time, being assigned such a big task by the left minister, a very great ambition suddenly rose within him. He wanted to become the son-in-law of the left minister. The time they would spend in the mystery realm would be half a month at least, and half a year at most. Furthermore, there were many dangers within, and he and Li Weiwei would be all alone by themselves. After spending all that time together, wouldn't familiarity breed fondness? Moreover, in the face of danger, women were the most vulnerable. When she saw how mighty and majestic he was, she would definitely not be able to stop herself from falling in love with him. He had most ideal thoughts, but who would have expected that Li Weiwei had completely not taken him to heart, and was completely treating him like a servant to be ordered around. She had not even looked directly at him, which depressed him very much. If it was to be claimed that the daughter of the left minister was proud by nature, that was fine. But Li Weiwei was actually all smiles and cheerful around a lowlife from a small world, completely defenseless. She was practically treating him like a friend, so how could Tang Feng be able to accept this? He was the mighty top elite of the low extreme division. Could it be that he could not even match a lowlife from a small world? Tang Feng's expression was as dark as water. He inwardly decided that they had to separate from Ling Han after entering the mystery realm. Although he had never entered into the Heavenly Sea mystery realm, for the sake of his beloved daughter, the left minister had given him a jade scroll, and there was incredibly complete and accurate information about the Heavenly Sea mystery realm written within, so he was very confident. As the saying went, 3 women made a market, and 4 a fair. With Li Weiwei chattering endlessly, she led Ji Yuna and Shui Yenyu to both speak a few words here and there, which gave Ling Han no chance to speak at all. Thus, he took a step back, and began conversing with Lin Yu. "Senior brother Ling, why don't you go with me later?" Lin Yu extended an invitation. "This time, our Lin clan has obtained a total of 3 entry slots. Aside from myself, The other two clansmen are both elites in the low extreme of mountain river tier. He had long heard that Lin Yu was a just person, and could sacrifice himself for his friends. Merely hearing these words for him, he knew that his reputation was justified. Lin Yu could tell that Ling Han could possibly be hunted down, and thus had cordially invited him along. Ling Han could not help but smile, and said, "Thank you for your kindness, junior brother Lin. However, I am still used to being alone." Lin Yu took one look at Shui Yenyu, and believed himself to have understood the situation. Thus, he said, "I have forgotten that senior brother Ling still has a beautiful, captivating senior sister as company. However, senior sister Shui has just advanced into the mountain river tier, so if you met an opponent in the later stage of low extreme of the mountain river tier, or perhaps even the peak, I fear she will not be a match for them." Shui Yenyu was very talented in martial arts, and was a 2-star genius. How could there be anyone ordinary among those who could enter into the mystery realm? Besides, those that had advanced into the mountain river tier were all 1-star geniuses at the very least. Thus, Shui Yenyu would at most be able to match an opponent in the middle stage of low extreme. She would definitely be no match for someone stronger. Ling Han clapped a hand on Lin Yu's shoulder, and said, "I understand. However, I will be fine. When the time comes, it will not be definite who is the hunter and who is the prey." Seeing the powerful confidence Ling Han exuded, Lin Yu could not help but choose to believe him. "Ling Han." A pleasantly surprised voice rang out, and they saw the 9th king holding up her skirts as she walked quickly towards them. Her status was too noble, so all those belonging to the chaotic star's majestic empire knelt. As she walked past, the people on either side knelt down, and only when she passed did they stand up once more, forming a wave-like movement. Ling Han was surprised. Why was this 9th king suddenly calling out to him? He had barely finished the thought when the 9th king already ran to stand in front of him. Lin Yu hurriedly knelt on one knee, paying his respects. "Rise, rise." The 9th king lifted her hand. Her face as beautiful as a flower, she complimented, "Ling Han, you're better than others, who look like they have soft bones, and immediately kneel down when they see me." Pu. Those standing close enough to hear her almost threw up blood. This was their respect, all right? Her Imperial Majesty had already declared that seeing the 9 kings was equivalent to seeing Her Imperial Majesty. "Just tell us, who would dare not to pay respects to you?" Ling Han was obviously acting treasonous, refusing to kneel in the face of one of the 9 kings, and in your eyes, he had actually become one with an unyielding character. Ling Han merely clasped his hands in greeting, and said, "My respects to the 9th king." There were 3 female guards following behind the 9th king, and they were all at the peak of the low extreme of the mountain river tier. When they saw Ling Han's lack of respect, they immediately frowned, and glared at him angrily. "I have especially allowed Ling Han not to kneel down to pay his respects," the 9th king said hurriedly so that her 3 guards would not flip out. When they heard the words of the 9th king, the 3 female guards could only close their mouths obediently. Seeing the 9 kings was equivalent to seeing the Empress. This was applicable to them as well, so how could they possibly dare to disobey? "Ling Han, this time, it's all thanks to you that Big Sister praised me very much." The 9th king was all smiles. Drawing out a pill bottle, she handed it over to Ling Han. "This is a Jade Sun pill, which has the effect of boosting cultivation by about a year. It's my gift to you." Chapter 942, A Gift from the 9th King. Chapter 942, A Gift from the 9th King. The 9th king actually gave a gift to a man in public. This practically caused the eyeballs of all the people from the chaotic star's majestic empire to pop out of their sockets in shock. They only knew how inconceivable and unacceptable this scene was. Aside from the 9th king, who had appeared not many years ago, the other 8 kings had all respectively joined the imperial court and been bestowed the title of king in the last million years. In truth, they had not made any bit of contribution to the empire, and it was all the decision of the Empress who bestowed the title upon them. Yet facts had proven that the Empress truly had a keen eye. After a long time, the 8 kings had all advanced into the heavenly body tier, though none knew exactly what level they had reached. Hence, when the 9th king appeared, The citizens all naturally thought that it would not take too many centuries before this important person would also become a great elite of the heavenly body tier. However, the other 8 kings and the empress all shared a common point, and that was being aloof to men and maintaining a distance from them. So, in everyone's head, the 9th king should be no different. Thus, when they saw the 9th king personally come over to deliver a gift of an alchemical pill, it was naturally so astonishing that they were gaping with shock. No matter how much they puzzled over it, they could not believe it was possible. Ling Han accepted the pill bottle, smiled, and said, "Thank you, 9th king." He, on the other hand, was clear that the 9th king was innocent and naive, simple to the extreme and without any schemes in her head at all. She did not have any romantic thoughts, either, and it was completely because he had helped the chaotic star's majestic empire get the first place, which allowed the 9th king to be praised by the empress. Now that she was happy, she wanted to express her gratitude. It was that simple. "All right, you'd better not die inside. We'll see each other later." The 9th king waved, and, holding up her skirts, raced off again. Lin Yu's mouth was open wide enough for a fist to fit inside. After a long time, he finally punched Ling Han's chest playfully, and teased, "Awesome guy, never thought that you managed to conquer the 9th king, let alone without any previous sigs at all. Hiss, this time, probably no one would dare to make a move against you now." The 9th king represented the will of the empress, so if she favored Ling Han, who would dare make a move against him? Ling Han merely smiled, though he was shaking his head internally. How could things be as simple as that? Who would be able to find out who the culprit was after someone was killed in a mystery realm? How could the 9th king possibly kill them all? If something happened to the 9th king, perhaps the empress of the chaotic star's majestic empire would really massacre all those who entered to calm her rage, but she would definitely not go so far for him. To speak more crudely, who did he think he was? Ling Han put away the pill bottle. The Jade Sun pill could save cultivators a year's time of cultivation. It was negligible for any immortal who had a very long lifespan, but for him, it was extremely useful. Perhaps he would be able to reach the maximum limit of strength of 20 stars after he had refined this alchemical pill. He had nothing to do anyways, so he simply chose to consume the pill directly, and refine it here and now. Who would dare make a move against him now? In front of the eyes of so many, Ling Han was the safest. Anyone that dared to make a move now would be publicly declaring themselves an enemy of the 9th king, and he believed that even the left and right ministers and the 7 great generals would never dare to do such a thing. Shui Yenyu could only watch with a muscle twitching in her cheek, stunned by how outrageously bold this man could be. Ling Han consumed the alchemical pill, and immediately circulated the 6 techniques returned to 1 to absorb the medicinal effects inside the pill. Spiritual chi from the heavens and earth abruptly surged over in waves, almost becoming solid, and wrapped around Ling Han. A spirit base that had 6 alignments absorbed spiritual chi that had 6 alignments, and became 6 pillars of chi, their various colors vibrant and bright. When they saw these pillars of chi, quite a number of people was moved. What is there to be so amazed about? Isn't it just stimulating spiritual chi? Someone said in a disdainful tone. There is nothing amazing about being able to stimulate spiritual chi that has 6 different alignments at the same time. Even for someone that does not possess a natural spirit base, they could forge one out afterwards to create a perfect spirit base that has perfectly balanced 6 different alignments. But the problem here is, how could these pillars of spiritual chi be so wide? This is extremely astonishing. When I was in the Shattering Void tier, the pillars of spiritual chi that I stimulated were only 1/100th of the width of his at most. Being thus reminded, whether it was those in the Shattering Void tier or those in the Mountain River tier, they all looked stunned. No wonder this person was absolutely invincible in the Shattering Void tier. He had indeed cultivated Shattering Void tier to a practically perfect level. TSK, he is just invincible in the Shattering Void tier. Once he enters into the Mountain River tier, he'll be trash. That's right. He has only just climbed up to the 8th floor, and is just a 4-star genius. Even a 2-star genius, once he has reached the peak of low extreme of the Mountain River tier, would be able to dominate him easily. Some spoke in envious tones, but once they had said such words, even they themselves could not help but be dumbfounded. Just barely entered into the low extreme of mountain river tier, and he would have battle prowess to match someone in the early stage of medium extreme of mountain river tier? How astonishing was that? Just a 4-star genius. Did you know how many 4-star geniuses there were in total in the whole chaotic star's majestic empire? And you dared to use the word just. He only has the potential to become a 4-star genius, it's not set in stone. In the end, those people justified their words. Ling Han would naturally not take this idle gossip to heart. Under the effects of the alchemical pill, the spiritual chi formed pillars and surged madly into his body, endlessly transforming into his origin power. His strength was rapidly improving, charging towards the maximum limit of 20 stars. Because he had been cultivating the 9 Dragons Tyrant body art all this while, added with the wealth of resources in the immortal realm, he, a mere shattering void tier cultivator, naturally reached the peak of his body arts very soon, and the only thing he lacked was the level of origin power. In truth, with how rich the resources were in the immortal realm, they could easily send a cultivator up to the level of 20 stars of shattering void tier of strength, but the problem was whether you personally would be able to bear this kind of strength. If your dantian was not big enough, and your spiritual sea not wide enough, how could you be able to accommodate so much origin power? You would only be stuffed to the point of exploding. This was like a man who was obviously filthy rich, yet he was ill, so he could not eat scrumptious delicacies, and could not touch his beautiful wife. What meaning was there in having this kind of wealth? Ling Han cultivated the 6 techniques return to 1 to open the final door and become capable of accommodating the maximum of 20 stars of strength. When he came to this understanding, the only thing he lacked was time to fill him up. Now that the 9th king had gifted him a Jade Sun pill, it just happened to fill in for this shortcoming of his. Only after a day did Ling Han stop, his eyes snapping open as a smile pulled up the corners of his lips. Yi. Shui Yenyu was astonished. When you looked at me, I actually felt as if I was afraid to look you in the eye. Ling Han gave a laugh, and teased, that'd be natural. Don't you know that the husband's duty is to guide the wife, so it is natural that you would fear me? Shui Yenyu mercilessly rolled her eyes at him, but was still extremely surprised. One had to know that she was in the mountain river tier, yet she was actually scared by the gaze of a minor cultivator in the shattering void tier. What kind of logic was that? Her heart tensed up suddenly, and she felt breathless. She asked, could it be that you have pushed your strength up to 20 stars? Clever, as expected of my wife. Ling Han praised. Strength of 20 stars. Shui Yenyu's whole head was filled with these words. She was so stunned that she forgot to criticize the way Ling Han was taking liberties with her. She knew that Ling Han would definitely be able to reach strength of 20 stars of shattering void tier one day, but she had never imagined that it would have happened so quickly. She stared at Ling Han with eyes filled with astonishment. This man would perhaps one day become a miracle that all others could only look up to and admire. Chapter 943, Divine Metal. Chapter 943, Divine Metal. The heavenly sea mystery realm is about to open, someone called out, and everyone turned their heads to look skywards. Ling Han could not help but turn to look at the sky as well, and saw that the previous sky that had been clear and sunny had, in a mere instant, actually been torn open, revealing a colossal sea. The width was unknown, but the waves were fierce. There was a frightening divine sense interwoven within, and a mere look would scare one witless. Hong, long, long. The desolate plain ahead of them also split open as well, revealing a huge tunnel. All of a sudden, a pillar of water shot up into the sky, forming a waterfall that was flowing backward towards the sky. The waterfall was flowing upside down into the sky, and connected with that sea in the sky. Suddenly, endless waves surged in the opposite direction upwards into the sky. The sound of the waves boomed like thunder, suppressing all other sounds. At this time, even if someone tried their utter best, he would not be able to hear what he himself was saying at all. Ling Han looked on with shock. This was too grand. There was a great sea floating in the sky, and it was so wide that it seemed like it could crush the entire joint peace planet if it flowed downwards. Furthermore, the water underground was actually gushing in the opposite direction into the sky, completely going against natural laws. He finally found out why this mystery realm was known as the Heavenly Sea Mystery Realm. A sea in the heavens sit was not just in name, but rather the actual reality. Everyone could only use their divine sense to communicate now, as their hearing was completely disabled. They could only hear that endless thunder produced by the waves. That would be the heavenly sea. No one can fly above to get a clear look at it. There are no living beings inside that huge sea, and there is no end, either, Lin Yu mused ruefully. There was once an elite of the heavenly body tier that steered a galaxy-level warship and entered within, but as a wave broke over him, the warship turned into pieces, and that elite did not even manage to flee with his spirit in time. He was crushed along with his physical body. The heavenly body tier, on the joint peace planet, was synonym for invincible, but even heavenly body tier cultivators ended in that manner, so that sea in the sky naturally became a forbidden area. Look. There's something. Someone pointed at that waterfall that connected the heavens and earth. Linghan focused his gaze and looked over. There was a white-colored object flickering in the waterfall, but he could not exactly distinguish what it was. This was extremely shocking. A waterfall flowing upside down was in itself a very bizarre happening, but now, in the heavenly sea, there was actually an object that was going against the water flow and floating down the waterfall, which was an even more unacceptable fact to them. Linghan activated the Eye of Truth, and could finally make out the rough features of that white object. It's a piece of metal. A white-colored metal. Heavens, the waves there could easily crush a galaxy-level warship, and kill an elite of the heavenly body tier, but now there is actually a piece of metal that is still completely preserved. That metal must be extraordinarily heavy. How else could it possibly flow down the waterfall, going against the flow of the water? A top-grade godly metal. It must be a top-grade godly metal, which can be forged into the strongest spirit tool in this world. It could even block the destructive power of the heavenly sea. Is there any force capable of destroying it in this world? A few important people all exclaimed in surprise. They were all elites of the heavenly body tier, and as something that could move even them. The value of this piece of godly metal could be imagined. In that moment, everyone's eyes became fiery. One had to know that if this piece of godly metal fell down, where would it fall to? Into the heavenly sea mystery realm. That was right. The heavenly sea mystery realm was not that piece of sea in the sky, where even if an elite of the heavenly body tier entered, he would be directly eliminated. If they went there, wouldn't they just be heading to their deaths? The mystery realm was under the ground, and only when the heavenly sea appeared would this mystery realm appear as well. Otherwise, even if you dug through the entire joint peace planet, don't even think you would be able to find it. Linghan also felt a rush of excitement. Top-grade godly metal. Who would not want such a treasure? Moreover, others might not be able to mold this type of godly metal, but he had the Black Tower, so he should be able to, right? He could not help but ask, Small Tower, could you do it? I haven't seen it, so how would I know? Small Tower humphed. However, as long as it is godly metal, it would be a piece of cake. Linghan caught the implication of its words, and asked, so there is something that is even tougher than godly metal, and even you would not be able to refine it? Of course. Think, what material has the Black Tower been forged from? Small Tower said in a thunder tone. What was it forged from? Linghan continued to ask. He was indeed very curious. Divine metal. This time, Small Tower did not give an excuse like your cultivation level is too low, so telling you would be pointless. Above godly metal, there is divine metal. However, godly metal is divided into many grades, and though there are many different types of divine metal, there is only one grade. It either is divine metal, or it is not. Every piece of divine metal has its own unique consciousness, and possesses incredible might. According to legends, we'll speak more on this subject when you actually get a piece. Small Tower was beginning to keep him in suspense again. When they were speaking, that piece of white-colored metal had already glided into the ground. The heavenly sea mystery realm is already open. Go in quickly. If you are not entering now, what are you waiting for? You must get that piece of godly metal. Whoever can obtain that piece of godly metal for me will be heavily rewarded. The important people all spoke up, urging the masses to descend. At the same time, They were offering amazing rewards to obtain that piece of top-grade godly metal. There was nothing else that could be done. They could not enter into the mystery realm, and so could only place their hopes on these youngsters. One could foresee that there would definitely be a fierce battle full of bloodshed that would be caused by this piece of godly metal. Let's go. Ling Han tugged on Shui Yenyu's hand. If they did not enter at the same time, they would appear in different locations when they entered into the mystery realm. Blockhead, wait for me. Li Weiwei hurriedly chased after them. Fourth young miss. Yet Tang Feng stepped out to stand in her way. He still wanted to be alone with Li Weiwei, so he was naturally hoping there would not be a third wheel with them. Damn it. Li Weiwei stretched out a hand in a palm strike. It was naturally impossible for her battle prowess to pose any threat to Tang Feng, but when she delivered her palm strike, a beaded bracelet she was wearing on her wrist exuded brilliant light. Peng! Tang Feng was suddenly sent flying, spitting out a mouthful of blood. A god tool! Tang Feng exclaimed in his heart. Moreover, it was no ordinary god tool. Otherwise, a shattering void tear cultivator would definitely be unable to activate it. It should have been refined multiple times by the left minister, and because of their blood relation, Li Weiwei was capable of activating the power hidden within. Ling Han grabbed a hold of Shui Yenyu's hand. Hong! The sound of the water was thunderous, ringing out in his ears. The waves here were very huge, but there were no divine patterns interwoven with them. Thus, even if they broke over shattering void tear cultivators, they would not die. However, if they did not have enough ability, they would still be throwing up blood like crazy. More importantly, the waves of water went against the natural flow, and were going upwards, yet the mystery realm was at the very bottom. Hence, they had to overcome this opposite force, or they would not even be qualified to enter into the mystery realm. Ling Han exhibited his nature-defying trait as his strength of 20 stars exploded in a burst, and he moved against the flow as easily as if he was walking on flat land. Additionally, his physique was really too powerful, so when the waves slammed against him, the force he felt was no more than a massage. Your speed is too slow. Shui Yenyu sent him a mental message. You enter into your spatial god tool, and I will bring you in. Ling Han could not help but grin bitterly. How could he possibly show off the existence of the Black Tower? He usually hid it within his dantian, and when he hid inside, the Black Tower would shrink to the size of a mustard seed, not revealing the slightest sign of its existence. If he ducked inside, Shui Yenyu would not even be able to see him, so how was she supposed to bring him in? Ho ho, since you are indeed powerful, then bring me along with you. In any case, my skin is tough and thick, so no matter how fast you go, this water flow would not be able to injure me. He could not possibly explain the uniqueness of the Black Tower to Shui Yenyu. Shui Yenyu turned right around to take hold of his wrist, and her figure abruptly sped up. Chapter 944, Taking the Lead to Enter. Chapter 944, Taking the Lead to Enter. It had to be admitted that aside from the fact that Ling Han had defenses that could match a cultivator in the low extreme of the mountain river tier, in other areas, he was still too far away from mountain river tier. With this effort exerted by Shui Yenyu, their speed abruptly increased over a dozen times. However, these waves seemed to possess different strength according to the different cultivation levels they had. Ling Han did not even feel a thing, whilst Shui Yenyu looked like she was struggling. Very soon, their speed slowed down. Let me. Ling Han took the initiative once more, and advanced with Shui Yenyu in tow. In this way, Shui Yenyu merely had to use origin power to boost herself and increase her defenses, so the pressure on her was greatly reduced. Though Ling Han did not go very fast, every step he took was incredibly firm. Overall, he was actually not that much slower than Shui Yenyu. In his opinion, the impact of the water flow had reached 16 stars of shattering void tier. Thus, it would be extremely difficult even for an elite of 20 stars of shattering void tier to stand against these waves. After all, the water flowed endlessly, which was equivalent to the elite having to endure this kind of attack at all times. And there was no way he could fight back, either. Furthermore, the power of the waves differed according to cultivation level. Otherwise, the great elites of the heavenly body tier could directly escort them to the real entrance. As he imagined, it would not be a problem of struggling if these great elites entered. There would be a chance that they would be directly crushed. Thus, the stronger one's battle prowess was on the same cultivation level, the more advantage he would have here. Ling Han's strength had reached 20 stars, and he had attained the true maximum limit of the shattering void tier. Added with his physique that was on the level of godly metal, he could be considered invincible in this place. Could he hide himself here to ambush others? Ling Han gave it some thought, but ultimately still gave up this tempting idea. The reason why there was so much bloodshed and massacre in the mystery realm was because there were no witnesses at all, and no one could prove anyone guilty. There might not even be a body left, so how could the murderer be found? Yet this place was different. Everyone had to pass through here, so if he did make a move, there would be too many witnesses. To kill a student of the academy or a descendant of a court official in public was a heavy crime in the Chaotic Star's majestic empire. Moreover, he might not be successful, either. After all, they were all going into the mystery realm to hunt for treasures, so who would not be bringing some treasures that could save their lives? Ling Han shook his head, and, holding on to Shui Yenyu's hand, continued ahead. Although he started later, he was faster, and surpassed those ahead of them one after another. He was obviously not moving very fast, yet maintained an incredibly steady pace. On the way, even mountain river tier cultivators could only watch, and did not dare make a move due to feeling humiliated by being surpassed. In here, the majority of their origin power had to be used to oppose the impact of the water, and if they split out some origin power to make a move, that was practically courting death. About 2 hours later, Ling Han finally brought Shui Yenyu to the bottom of the water, and a pair of doors appeared in front of them. That was a pair of stone doors as tall as 300 meters. There were various shapes of beasts carved on the doorposts, and Ling Han could not recognize most of them. However, he could feel as if these beast carvings were alive and exuding an endless intimidating energy. They were obviously just carvings. Though he called them stone doors, it was actually just a stone entrance. On the door lintel, there was a stone dragon coiled above, vivid and lifelike as if it would struggle free of the door lintel and soar into the wilderness at any moment. Let's go. Ling Han felt much pity as he had not spotted that piece of godly metal at all on their way here. Otherwise, he would have been able to take it just by stretching his hand. The two of them entered the stone doors. They were drawn by a strange attraction as if it could pull them into pieces at any moment. They hurriedly grabbed each other's hand tightly so that they would not be separated. Peng, peng. The two of them were tossed onto the ground at the same time. The surroundings had changed. They were no longer in an environment of water. Let go. Shui Yenyu rebuked, rolling her eyes exaggeratedly at Ling Han. Ling Han could not help but feel rueful inwardly. Before he had seen the Empress of the Chaotic Star's majestic empire, he felt that every move that Shui Yenyu made was filled with allure. But now, though she was still as beautiful as before, compared with the Empress of the Chaotic Star's majestic empire, she was missing an endless grace. He loosened his grip with a smile as per her words, and asked, "Now where should we go?" It was not the first time that Shui Yenyu had entered the Heavenly Sea mystery realm, but it was still only her second time here. She had come here 10 years ago, but if it was 20 years ago, she had still been too young, and her abilities were inadequate, so her clan did not dare to allow her to take risks. Before entering here, we would randomly appear in the surroundings of the mystery realm, and the further we go into the core area, the higher the chances that there would be mountain river stones nearby, Shui Yenyu explained. And there's also that piece of godly metal. This was constantly on Ling Han's mind. Even if that wasn't divine metal, to be able to withstand the force of the heavenly sea and remain undamaged, it had definitely surpassed the level of the heavenly body tier. At the very least, it would be a level 13 godly metal. Regarding this matter, Shui Yenyu could only shake her head in bafflement. Previously, there had never appeared a piece of godly metal that could actually go against the water flow and enter into the mystery realm. Who knew what corner it would be in right now? If it had fallen down randomly, then it could possibly be in any corner of the fringe of the mystery realm. We may not even have enough time to make a whole round, what more when there would be a higher chance that it would be picked up and taken away by someone else, she analyzed. That was very logical. Ling Han sighed. Then he could only hope that godly metal was different, and would appear in the core area. He looked at the environment around them. This was a very strange place. All around them, it was a bright crimson. This was a plain, but there were hills, which had stone thorns piercing through the air, in the distance. A crimson fog was twining above them. They could not see through it, nor could their divine sense pass through. Ang! A beast's roar sounded from afar, so loud that even the ground itself was trembling. Innumerable pebbles bounced off the ground from the impact. This place was not a desolate area without life. On the contrary, a lot of the danger came from the native demonic beasts here. The majority of them was in the low extreme of the mountain river tier, but there were some that had reached the medium extreme, or even high extreme. When encountering a creature in the late stage or even the peak of high extreme, even a 4-star genius would have to make a strategic retreat. Thankfully, it is similarly in the low extreme. Shui Yenyu scanned it for a moment, and let out a sigh of relief. Then, she revealed a burning fighting spirit. We can try a fight. In this place, aside from mountain river stones, hunting demonic beasts was also a very important part. Without elaborating on anything else, the spiritual meat of immortal-level demonic beasts was very nutritious, though slightly inferior to some natural divine herbs, and had surpassed the majority of alchemical pills. However, there were too many cultivators. The demonic beasts on Joint Peace Planet had suffered overhunting, and now, one could possibly find demonic beasts only in the uninhabited regions of the wide mountains, but this kind of demonic beast would usually be incredibly powerful, so the chances that they would be countered and killed in return were even higher. The other option was the Mystery Realm. Because there was a limited time that the Mystery Realm would be open, and there was also a limit on the number of cultivators that could enter, as well as on their cultivation level, they could not create fundamental damage to their population. Where there are demonic beasts, there usually are mountain river stones, Shui Yenyu continued. Ling Han was curious, and asked, why do these demonic beasts not refine the mountain river stones? Probably because they can't, Shui Yenyu guessed. Aside from this reason, what other explanation could there be? Otherwise, with the passing of so many years, even if this whole place was scattered all over with mountain river stones, they would have been refined completely with none left. Ling Han nodded. He had presently reached the true maximum limit of the shattering void tier, and could break through to the mountain river tier now. Hence, he very much needed these mountain river stones to help him reach the top in a single step. The two of them walked in the direction they heard the roars of beasts coming from. In a short while, they saw that a huge rock had appeared in front of them. A demonic beast akin to a water buffalo was feasting there as it chewed on an 8-legged black deer. As if it had smelled Ling Han's and Shui Yenyu's scent, this demonic beast suddenly stood up, and turned to look in their direction. There shockingly was a single silver horn growing on its forehead, exuding cold sheen of a metal. Chapter 945 Silver-Horned Mad Rhinoceros. Chapter 945 Silver-Horned Mad Rhinoceros. It's a silver-horned mad rhinoceros, Shui Yenyu exclaimed in surprise. Is it very strong? Ling Han asked. His knowledge about immortal-level demonic beasts was naturally close to zero. This should be his first sight of an immortal-level demonic beast. This kind of demonic beast is on par with a 2-star genius of the same cultivation level, Shui Yenyu declared solemnly. Its power is primarily manifested by its silver horn, which is incredibly sharp, and it is extraordinarily strong by itself, with quite astonishing defenses. Its only inadequacy is that its speed is slightly low. While they were speaking, this silver-horned mad rhinoceros was also scuffing its heels. An image of a great mountain appeared behind it, but there were no rivers. This meant that its cultivation level had yet to reach the late stage of the low extreme of mountain river tier, or the image of a river would have appeared. Furthermore, looking at the size and solidity of this mountain, it should have reached the middle stage of the low extreme. Its real battle prowess is on the level of the peak of the low extreme. Shui Yenyu compared the difference in the battle prowess of both sides. We only have a 20% chance of winning. Hey, have you included my battle prowess in the calculation? Ling Han called out. It's precisely because you are here that we only have a 20% chance of winning. If not, I could have a 30% chance, Shui Yenyu said indifferently. Haha, are you resenting me for being in the way? That's so funny. Shui Yenyu shook her head, and replied, the chances of winning are too small. It would be best not to fight. Ling Han shook his head as well, and said, too late for that. This wild bull seems like it has no plans of letting us go. Hong, long, long. That silver-horned mad rhinoceros was charging towards them. Its speed was indeed not too quick, but its weight was really too terrifying. Hence, when it started its mad dash, its momentum was incomparably frightening, and the ground caved in behind it. This was also because the regulations in this place were not firm enough. Otherwise, it would definitely be impossible that the low extreme of mountain river tier would have such destructive ability. This guy's actual size should be even larger than a mountain, and now that it has shrunk to this size, its charge is incredibly frightening, Shui Yenyu explained seriously. Ling Han smiled faintly, and said, I will create an opportunity, and you kill it in a single blow. Are you crazy? You are only in the shattering void tier. Shui Yenyu exclaimed in surprise. Don't forget, my defenses are something that even you can do nothing against. Ling Han said. When she remembered the first battle between them, Shui Yenyu's face was flushed red, and she could not help but call him pervert inside her heart. A strange feeling rose up inside her, causing her to feel a kind of nostalgia, which scared her so much that she hurriedly shook her head. She did not dare think about it further. Peng, peng, peng. The silver-horned mad rhinoceros had already raced over, and rushed towards them like a mountain. Ling Han stepped out, activated the Eye of Truth, and raised his right palm. Circulating the two mystical powers of the earth-overturning seal and thunderclap ninth heaven, he suddenly clapped out with a palm aimed right at the eyes of the silver-horned mad rhinoceros. This great rhinoceros did not even have the intent to dodge. It lowered its head slightly, and then, with a flick, peng, its silver horn crashed into Ling Han's chest. Abruptly, he was flicked up, and then ruthlessly sent flying following the impact. Like a cannonball, Ling Han was directly sent flying into the distance. That full-powered blow of his did not even injure a hair on the great rhinoceros. Demonic beasts, by nature, had tough and strong skin. At least, the physique of mountain river tier was not something that could be penetrated by a shattering void tier cultivator, and this was completely different from human cultivators. Yet Shui Yenyu took advantage of the opening to draw her sword. With a flick of her blade, she sliced towards the neck of that silver-horned mad rhinoceros. But this big guy suddenly turned around, its back facing Shui Yenyu. Its legs abruptly bounced up, and aimed a fierce kick in her direction. Peng! Shui Yenyu was also sent flying with the impact. However, she was similarly in the low extreme of mountain river tier, after all, and while she might be slightly inferior in terms of strength, the difference would not be too large. After turning over a dozen somersaults in the air, she finally diffused the force of the blow completely. It was merely a single blow. This huge rhinoceros had shown its full might, and had the upper hand. Ling Han got to his feet, and rubbed his chest. His clothes were naturally torn open from the impact, and there was actually a bloody mark on his chest. His skin had a slight scrape, so there was a bit of blood. No wonder it is called silver-horned. Its destructive ability is indeed shocking. Even my physique could not completely block its attack, Ling Han mumbled to himself. But if this scene was seen by others, they would definitely be so stunned that they would not dare believe this was reality. He was a mere shattering void tier cultivator, yet he could actually take a blow from a mountain river tier beast head-on, with only a bloody mark left behind. One had to know that the silver-horned mad rhinoceros was best known for its single horn, which had incredible destructive ability. Even a lion-type or tiger-type demonic beast of the same cultivation level would not dare take the might of this horn head-on, as the result would definitely be either severe injury or even death. When Shui Yenyu saw this, she breathed a sigh of relief. Though she had long since prepared herself, her small mouth still formed an O shape. It was likely that she would not be able to get used to it this entire lifetime. Ling Han laughed long and loud, and, leaping out, once again charged towards the silver-horned mad rhinoceros. Senior sister, Let's work together, he said. Move on my word. Shui Yenyu wanted to object at that moment. I am obviously more powerful than you, and stronger by who knows how many times, so why am I the one to follow your lead? But in this time and place, she could not act difficult, so she could only suppress her displeasure and settle the score with Ling Han later. Sword in hand, she charged towards the silver-horned mad rhinoceros, but did not rush to attack. Instead, she waited for Ling Han's signal. Attack! Ling Han shouted. Wang, he, too, activated the 7-kill subduing soul technique, which rushed towards the silver-horned mad rhinoceros. This demonic beast was rushing towards Ling Han, its silver horn just about to reach Ling Han's chest. His spiritual attack was naturally unavoidable, and the attack instantly landed solidly. The rhino's legs softened, and its head slanted to one side. The silver horn missed Ling Han, and crashed to the side. Shui Yenyu took the opportunity to rush right up to it, and slashed down on the neck of the silver-horned mad rhinoceros. Ding! A bout of sparks flashed. Though the long sword had slashed into the huge rhino's neck, it had not penetrated too deeply. Furthermore, the silver-horned mad rhinoceros immediately regained its senses with the pain, and released a furious roar. It suddenly tossed its head, and once again sent Ling Han flying. Then, it charged out, so the long sword was pulled out of its body. Fresh blood continuously dripped from its neck. This demonic beast had been enraged, its size suddenly increasing by 10 times its original one, with its black body exuding endless strength. Peng, peng, peng. The ground around it actually caved in as if a mountain range had crashed down on it. Yi, this demonic beast's mountains and rivers actually has a unique alignment, Ling Han exclaimed in surprise. The left minister had mentioned before that there were some mountain river stones that possessed unique alignments. For example, some could produce terrifying weight. And now, what this demonic beast showed was extreme weight. I think it is not that the demonic beasts here cannot refine mountain river stones, but already possess this kind of special ability by nature. Ling Han suddenly thought of this possibility. Whether that is the case or not, how should we resolve the situation now? Shui Yenyu arrived in a single leap. Her hand wielding her sword, she looked beautiful and exuberant. However, she was the type to be elegant and graceful like water, and with the interweaving of these two kinds of bearing, she was like a fatal poison. Ling Han took another look, and then said, just like before, I will stun it, and you take the opportunity to attack. Its physique is not tough to the extent that it is invincible. Shui Yenyu turned her head, and asked, can you endure it? Are you worrying about me now? Ling Han countered with a smile. Who cares if you die? You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories,